Saturday. It is Saturday for all of us. How cool is that? That means at 8 a.m. we will be doing a live Q&A, 60 minutes of your questions, my answers. Unfortunately, I can't answer all of the questions that come in during our live stream. So if you want to jump to the front of the line, that is what Super Chats are all about. This is the only time I talk about Super Chats is on our 8 a.m. Saturday live Q&A. Look forward to seeing you there. We do have a huge announcement today. The one, the only, the amazing Dion from Dion Talk, part of the Three Amigos, has successfully published, audited, whatever you want to call it, this book on Audible. 15 Conversations with Real Estate Millionaires is now available on Audible. All of us, including myself, owe Dion a huge debt of gratitude. I look forward to giving back in some way, somehow, when he asks. It is now available. Go check it out. It's amazing. But let's not forget, 15 Conversations with Real Estate Millionaires was inspired by a book from Gary Keller. Gary Keller wrote an amazing book that I consumed. But what Gary Keller gave me was in the back of his book, he gave us stories, portraits of millionaires. This 40 pages was something I read and reread year after year. You have heard me say that investing in real estate is slow. We've talked about the first 3 to 5 years being painfully slow. You know what? It was for me too. I held onto these 40 pages so much that I had to get a new copy. I had to find this. I had to know it was going to work out. That's why we wrote this book. I wrote this book for you. I wanted to give you more meat. Gary Keller gave me a page and a half. I give you 10, 12 pages. Go find your story, your 2 stories, your 3 stories that you could listen to and go, you know what? It's going to be okay. We're going to get there. You know, they did it. I'm smarter than, I don't care what it is. There are 15 different and unique stories in this book for you to hold on to. My hope is you find 3 to 4 stories and you just read or listen. It is going to be amazing. So Dion, I said it before, I will say it undoubtedly again. This book does not get on Audible without you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so that's the huge announcement. Let's talk about the Sacramento housing crash. Folks, we talked about Sacramento earlier in the week. I think it was Tuesday. We talked about the transactions crashing 26.2%. We have now gotten complete data from Ryan Lundquist. Full credit to Ryan Lundquist. I believe he's the Sacramento appraiser. Again, Ryan is a great follow on Twitter. Again, these numbers are for Sacramento, but inside these numbers are what I think happens across the country. So let's talk about Sacramento. Sacramento is not quite Phoenix, not quite Vegas, not quite Boise, right? Top tier, definitely in for some pain. Sacramento is probably that next area. Certainly crazy appreciation, right? I think 41% in 2 years. It's one of the cheaper parts in California, so it had a lot of appreciation. It is one of those top markets that is ripe for year-on-year decline. We just completed August. These are the August data. Lots and lots of people are calling for a housing crash right now. So let's talk about the numbers. Again, follow Ryan Lundquist, Sacramento appraiser. So these numbers are August 22, this August, compared to August 21. First and foremost, let's talk about transactions. We already got the percentage decline of 26.2, but if you want the actual numbers, they did 2,581 last year, only 1,906 this year. These are the things that we have to watch for the end of the year, right? I think the next 4 months are slow. We will talk about where rates might end up. And you know what? Ty from our Friday conversations might be right. We might see an 8%. We will do that in a moment. I'll show you how I get there. Days on market. Again, we can have less listings and days on market could go up. This is a supply demand, right? If there's less supply but a lot less demand, days on market will rise. Sacramento, one of those second tier cities, went from only 16 days on market to 29. I think this gets worse. If I wanted to scare you, I could say something like days on market in Sacramento went up 81%. Wow, 81%. That is crazy. And I will tell you, it gets worse. Transactions from 2,500 to 1,900, it gets worse. Days on market, 16 to 29, it gets worse. Months of supply, last year, under 1 month. This year, over 2 months, an increase of 132%. If I wanted to put out a very scary clickbaity title, I could say Sacramento explodes, 132% growth in inventory. It went from sub 1 to just over 2. We have all heard a balanced market is somewhere between 4 and 6. I again think this gets worse. I think this increases. All right, how about bank-owned property sales? Folks, you have seen people say foreclosures, short sales, bank-owned properties. They're going to run amok. Well, here's the deal. In August last year, 2 properties were sold by banks. Guess how many were sold this month or August this year? Not 2, 1. So bank-owned property sales went down 50%. I'm guessing we won't see any headlines on that. Now, let's talk about price. I have median price and average price, and these are important. Sometimes people get it twisted. What is median? What is average? So let's talk about this. Median price, August of 2021, last year, Sacramento, $560,000. This year, remember, we did have a little bit of pullback in interest rates, so this might help. This is probably going to get worse. This year, in August, did it crash 26%? I'm sorry to say it did not. Median home sales in August for Sacramento went up to $580,000. That is roughly a 3.5% jump year on year. Again, Sacramento is in that bubbly market. It is unhealthy what has happened, but it still went up year on year, 3.5%. How about average? Average is very different, right? It's a very different number. It's a very different math formula. You throw it all in the bucket, you add them up, you divide by the number of transactions, bingo, average. So again, remember the median home price Sacramento last year was $560. The average was $635. How can that be? Well, what happens in the summer, as I've said many, many times, seasonality, the bigger properties sell in the summer. Big families, all of these things, they typically move when the kids are out of school. So you will see a seasonality bump up May, June, July, August. Every year, almost every city. What happened to average home price this year? Well, it too went up, but by a smaller amount. We went from $635 last year to $653, about a 3% increase. It would not shock me if Sacramento joins the list of year-on-year declines as we head into next year, quite possibly this year. But again, will that be enough to take the median home price for the country down? I still don't think so. But again, what I think about the country and frankly, what you think about the country should not matter. Frankly, if you are buying in Sacramento and I just gave you 3 minutes of Sacramento data, you shouldn't care. You should have a buy box that is framed, and you should only care about the daily statistics in your market. How many more listings? How many price drops? How many pendings? How many times on the market? Right? This is the daily discipline, the focus that drives one rental at a time. Let's talk about rates and how we might see 8%. Ty and I were talking yesterday during our weekly wrap-up. and he reminded me that he saw 8%. My face, I don't know if you saw it, went white. I was like, God, 8%? I can't imagine. So I went home and I did some math. When in doubt, I do math. So the first thing we have to look at is what were rates today? And I thought we should do this together. So Fed funds, 10-year note, 30-year mortgage. Bear with me because this is important. This could show how right Ty is, and maybe, again, maybe I am wrong because you've heard me talk about 7. Ty is thinking 8. So where are the Fed funds today? 2.25. 10-year note, about 3.3. And mortgages, right? 30-year mortgages, we heard this week from Matt, the mortgage guy, just hit 6.25. Okay, now to see what rates could be by the end of the year. This gets scary. This made me uncomfortable. Now, again, this makes all kinds of assumptions. This is one man's ramblings of a madman, to steal Tom Nash's great saying. So I just wanted to say, how bad could it be? So all of this anchors on picking a funds rate and then using the same deltas. I'll show you what I mean. So let's assume the federal funds rate is 4%. Okay, it's going to go up 1 3/4 by the end of the year. Once you make that assumption, you could use the same deltas to just make a wild guess about what would happen. I'll show you what I mean. So if you look at this 2.25 and the 10-year note at 3.3, roughly speaking, there's a 1% delta. Do you see that? 2.25, 3.3. So if we assume the same thing, we can assume the 10-year note is at 5%. You with me so far? Hope so. Now, when you look at 3.3 10-year note and the mortgage at 6.25, again, roughly speaking, that is a 3% gap. Do you see that? 3.33, 6.25. So lo and behold, 8%. Now, again, I will sit here telling you that I don't think it gets that high. I think banks collapse margins. I think they do everything they can to keep a somewhat functioning housing market. Maybe that's 7.5, maybe that's 7.25. But, you know, just mathematically, you could see how we get to 8%. Again, I'm not calling for 8%. I wanted to see if it was possible. And clearly it's possible. God, can you imagine? We saw the housing market break at 6%. We are going to see the housing market get ghosted at 7%. We saw 6% in the good times. We are about to see 7% in the bad times. Can you imagine 8%? Boy, gives me chills, and it makes me excited. Remember, when I talk about this housing market, for buyers, I get nervous. For investors, I get excited. I can be picky. I can write hundreds of offers. I can seek motivated sellers. I can do seller financing. I can do direct mail. I will work for deals. I will spend money to find deals. So all you got to do is find motivated sellers, and I am super, super excited. Oh, something I read this morning. I don't know if you saw it, but the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, is setting up an office, a new office called the Office of Crypto Assets. Again, not a huge crypto fan or bull, although I do have 1% of my net worth in crypto as a insurance policy. I would have to just logically think an Office of Crypto Assets is a good thing. It adds legitimacy to the crypto market. It will remove more frauds and pump and dumps and rug pulls. There will be less junk, more quality in the crypto market, at least my wild ass guess. But yes, I would think that is, if you are a crypto fan, a crypto bull, I'm guessing you look at that as a good thing. That's what I'm thinking. So what else do we got? We got a lot of stuff that I couldn't put on the board this morning. The housing slowdown. Again, when you think about the housing slowdown, think about Sacramento. There's a buyer impact and seller impact. So buyers, as we get to 7, 8%, affordability down, recession fears up, buying at the top fears up, mortgage demand down. That is demand destruction. Now let's talk about supply or sellers. We have sellers with what I call wish pricing. They are remembering March. We have sellers who can't afford to move. One of the most popular things I'm hearing lately, Michael, I would love to sell my house. We are getting too big, or I want a new area, blah, 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 but I can't afford to move. Think about that. You got a yes answer from a bank at 3%. You are trying to upgrade your family. You're trying to take equity from here and move it there. But at 7%, the bank says no. So you stay put. You are locked in. If you are locked in at 6%, what is going to happen at 7 or 8%? And then finally, we are hearing from more and more people. We heard this yesterday or the day before from Convoy. People are taking their properties off the market. They are refinancing them or pulling out equity or whatever they're doing, and they're renting them. People are going to rent and hope that next spring, next April, next May are better. Inventory's going down. Transactions are going down. It is going to be a slow Q4, and I think pull the economy into a recession. Redfin's chief economist, Daryl Fairweather. Fairweather. I just love her name, Daryl Fairweather. I think that's an awesome name. She says this winter, the housing market is going to be especially frigid as sales dry up more than usual. Yes, Daryl, we have been talking about that for quite a while. The Fed broke housing, transaction crash, housing depression. Thank you for bringing that to folks' attention. What else do we got? Last thing I want to talk about. There is a brand new podcast where I was guest number 1 called the Resilient Real Estate Investing Podcast. Brand new episodes come out every Monday. Do me a favor, give them a quick review. Go check out my podcast. It would greatly appreciate it. I love being guest number 1. After me, there was a syndicator who spent 8 years in jail. Go hear that story. Think about commingling funds, things like that. Also, a theater operator who bought 20 properties and achieved financial freedom, a la Dion from Dion Talk, right? You don't need hundreds of units. Most of you can get to financial freedom with 6, 8, 10, 12, maybe 20. So folks, it is Saturday. Enjoy your Saturday. I hope to see you right back here in a couple of minutes for 60 minutes of live Q&A. And again, Dion, thanks, man. I appreciate you. Take care. Bye-bye.